To tell you the truth, I needed to drink. I would have a hard day at work, and I would go to the bar and let the alcohol wash away all of my thoughts. It was cathartic. My husband, my daughter, and my friends constantly lay into me when I got home, stinking like alcohol. They would bitch at me, saying that I just wasn't the person they thought I was when I went out drinking, and how I could be such a better person. They would always be lying in wait for me when I got home. I would walk through the door and find a group of my family and friends waiting for me. They would ambush me with prepared letters about how my drinking made them feel, how my drinking made them hurt. But of course, it was always bullshit. They didn't give me appropriate time to form my own argument. There wasn't much I could do under their relentless assault. I'd always let them cry and rage against me. Afterwards, I would tell them that I would change and find the strength to quit. But a few weeks later, I would down a fifth of Jack Daniels and wash away my thoughts, and the process would begin again. They would organize another meeting, and I would keep making empty promises because I knew it was better than the alternative. When I was sober, I'd keep imagining them on hooks, pleading and begging for sweet release. I'd imagine how their flesh would look so appealing, how it would feel to slice open, tear apart. They want me to quit drinking, but without it, I keep imagining the end. We made a lot of promises, typically after making love. When we were covered with sweat and spent from our lust, we would whisper sweet nothings. He would wrap his arms around me, and I could still feel him deep inside. He'd pull me close, and that's when he'd say it. Together, forever. The car slammed into a tree and pitched me forward. He was stopped from joining me by the steering wheel. I rolled through the woods, a whirling dervish of bruises, broken bones, and blood. I passed out, and when I awoke, I was alone. The ambulance must not have seen me and left me behind. So I hobbled home, my bones sucking and popping lewdly out of my wound. It took a few days, but I finally reached him. He was heavily medicated and looked shocked to see me. It was my appearance that so profoundly impacted him. Blood had congealed on my mottled gray skin. The wounds where my bones broke through had begun to rot. A day of traveling in the hot sun had already made me bloat up with gases from decomposition, and I looked almost pregnant. I was rotting from the inside out. He was still under the influence of his medication, but that would wear off. I sat down next to him and ran my putrid and cold hand over his head. He stiffened as I leaned in close. My words rattled through my broken teeth and into his ear. Together, forever. I have to take this nice and slow. I have to choose my words carefully. I don't want to make this any worse. Something's happened this past week to the way that we talk. I don't know what's causing it or how it's happening. I only know that it's killing people. Innocuous phrases, figures of speech, colloquialisms, hyperboles, They're all becoming literal, with disastrous results. Most people have stopped talking entirely, but that approach isn't really helping anymore. The first victim was Old Man Gnome. He always was a talker. He loved to ramble, old stories and local urban legends to anyone who would listen. It was when he started a conversation with a college student who was too nice to walk away that it happened. Gnome was rambling on about a time that he found the Jersey Devil in his backyard. At the crescendo of his long-winded story, he said those fateful words. He said that he was beside himself with shock at finding the legendary cryptid in Spokane when it happened. Gnome screamed in agony as he was attacked by some invisible force and ripped in two. The student could only watch in horror as the bisected man clutched desperately at his severed lower half while he bled out as if he could reattach himself. The people who witnessed Gnome's death called the police, who promptly took the student into custody so he could be interrogated for the possible murder. They changed the boy out of his blood-stained clothes and gave him a gray prison jumper. They interrogated him for 5 hours before the stress, lights, and questions broke him. In his frustration, he said something about how the uncomfortable jumper was killing him. The jumper then constricted tight around him. He flailed around the room, trying to tear the attacking clothes off, but they were too tight and coiled around him. The police officers could only watch as the jumper shrunk to the point of crushing his bones and organs until the student died. When they cut the clothes off of him to try to make sense of what had happened, they found that the seams of the prison jumper had actually cut into him, bruised him in places, and completely compressed his lungs into a pulpy mess. It didn't take long for people to make the connection between their words and the results. So many people stopped talking. But a few spoke out about how to protect yourself from this phenomenon. They explained that it only attacks the speaker. You can't kill other people with your words except in very certain situations. One woman had joked with a friend that she always assumed she would go out with a bang. The resulting explosion killed 4 people, crippled 1, and severely burned 5 others. Your words will always be turned against you. One man boasted that he wanted to die drowning in pussy and found himself swarmed and smothered by a horde of oddly clingy cats. It's no longer restricted to spoken word, it's spread onto written messages. I was texting with a friend trying to understand what was happening when he, always a defeatist, said he was screwed 6 ways till Sunday due to his tendency to talk. From what I hear, he died of severe exhaustion, dehydration, and physical shock after removing his genitals with a pair of scissors and then turning them on himself. Soon it'll spread to our thoughts, and then we are all dead. I'm writing this now because I am dying. Slower than the others, but dying nonetheless. I just wanted it to end in the nicest way possible. I said I wanted to die with a smile on my face. I thought it would be harmless, dying happy, but it didn't work. My face is paralyzed in a grin. I can't eat, I can't talk, and I can't even scream in agony at this perpetual smile burning my muscles. I just want this to end.